Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans. From a diehard Houston sports fan, I'm, of course, Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. I'm an actor, improviser, writer, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I went to Big Ike, swoop, swoop, like I mentioned last pod, but superfans know I moved my senior year and graduated from Lamar. Despite their insistence that I refrain from graduating, I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in Los Angeles, and now, well, I'm podcasting. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here. You start absent-mindedly calling it The 10 instead of I-10, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of the Houston Astros and your other Houston sports teams. Here, we aren't doom and gloom doomers, or casual Astros fans, or worse, the national media haters. We love our teams and root them on, but we also try to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism and without too much despair. A key word here, of course, is try. I'd like to welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brothers call the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brothers. Shout out to my brothers. Shout out to Arrested Development fans. Shout out to Bob Lob Law. Check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, depending on your interpretation of my pronunciation here. They call me Mr. Mumbles, not Mr. Grumbles. I don't know what that was. Oh, God. We're already off the rails, folks. We're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Ross to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me. Well, in spirit right now. She's technically in the other room. It was a tough day for Astros fans, and it was a tough day for Carla. Longtime listeners of the podcast know that she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. I've got the cool takes. I'm here to be your Sherpa in these dark and desperate times, folks. It is crazy out there. It's wild. It's a time full of despair and discomfort. Uncertain times, they call it. You know, I'm here to help you and your sports fandom through all these uncertain times. You know, sports should be something that brings us joy and comfort. And sometimes it doesn't. So I'm here for that. You know, in this world of hot takes and this world of clickbait, I want to be here to kind of help you through the tough times, you know? There's much bigger fights out there. There's much bigger things to be angry about and hateful towards. Not that we should be hateful, but, you know, there's just all this anger in the world. We don't want anger in our sports. At least we try to avoid it. Folks, on this episode, the Astros lose to the Orioles. You know, this is what I'm here for in these dark times. You know, that's why you come to my podcast and not a podcast of people screaming at each other. You know, is it time, though? Is it time? I know you're already saying, is this guy a lunatic? Is he a homer? Is he Delulu? Does he suffer from drag confusion and drag delusion? No, folks, I do know what's happening in the world. I know it's tough right now. Is it time to bring out the official Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros panic meter? We'll get to that on the episode today. Also, the Texans make a trade, and we'll look ahead to the Astros' next series against the Motor City Kitties, because in dark times like this, there's something that can always help, and that's looking ahead. We can't dwell on this for too long, but we're here to talk about it, folks. And let's get to the podcast. But before we get to it, of course, I want to wish a good day, mates, to my Australian listeners and my H-Town hustlers out there. Please share this podcast with other Houston Astro diehards and other Australians in your life. But let's get to it, folks. Today on the podcast, let's look at this series the Houston Astros had against the Baltimore Orioles. It was definitely an up and down series. It was full of emotions. You know, this season has truly been the roller coaster of emotions for Houston Astros fans. If you've been here along with me this whole season, thank you very much. But also, I'm sure you have felt the ups and downs. There has been some days that you thought this team was going to the World Series. There's been some days where you probably thought Dana Brown might have to trade everything away. You know, there's been some ups, there's been some downs. Right now, this series has definitely felt like the way the season has gone so far, a little bit of starting down, going up, and then kind of going back down again, folks. The first game of the season here, the first game of the series is what I'm trying to say, against the Baltimore Orioles, was a 0-7 loss. So definitely not starting off the way that Houston Astros fans would have wanted, not starting off the way I had wanted it to, of course. I was looking for a quality start from Fromber. He definitely was giving his best effort. He was able to go 6. He was able to keep that within, under 3 earned runs, of course. But the Astros offense, I also called for the Astros offense to give them some run support. Folks, we'll get to the offensive side in a second, but let's focus on Fromber. Obviously, he gave us his best effort. It just wasn't enough for the team. That's no fault of Fromber. It was a little bit of a tough game at points for him, of course. But, you cannot have this on Fromber in any kind of way. La Grasa in this game pitched 6 2/3 of an inning. He gave up 9 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and of course gave up 1 home run. It's just tough. We saw spoiled spaghetti sauce. We saw spoiled Spencer Arrietty's game in last series. It's tough to see pitchers go out there, give a pretty darn good effort, and just not be able to be picked up by the offense. Or, in this game was especially tough for the Houston Astros to get any offense going. Of course, there was no offense to be seen. Obviously, 0-7, that's a goose egg, folks. That means nothing. That means zilch, that's zilch, that's no runs. So that's not ideal. I don't know if you're a mathematician out there, but, when I say they need some run support, 0 isn't exactly what I was asking for. So, of course, it was a frustrating game. That's why we have jokes. We hide behind that sense of humor, folks. But, I think, Sean Dubin came in this game. Yeah, that's correct. Sean Dubin came in this game and got blasted for 3 earned runs as well in this game. So that was tough to see. You're looking for pitchers like Sean Dubin to kind of hold the ship steady a little bit in these uncertain times. In these times without Josh Hader, folks, we got news that Josh Hader is done for the season. That's right, folks. You're on this podcast to hear your silly friend try to tell you not to despair, but it's nothing but bad news so far. But yeah, that's how it goes some days, So Josh Hader is done for the season. We do know that. I believe that game, I'm not sure if news broke at that point during this game or if it was the next day, but, you're looking for guys in the middle relief to be able to eat up some more innings, to kind of hold the game within a puncher's chance, and it was just not Sean Dubin's day. That was tough. Overall, let's look at the other side of the ball. Obviously was not the best day out of the bullpen. It was not ideal from the starter. I don't think he blamed Valdez in any kind of way. He competed. He went out there and he kept the team in it. That's all you can ask from your starting pitcher. You can't. He can't also hit the ball for the offense. He can't bring in the runs. He can't do everything. He did his job, but the team overall got 1 hit in this game. This game went. It was not very fun to watch. It was almost a perfect game. You really have to tip your cap to Brandon Young in this game. As frustrating as it was to watch, we did see an incredible performance from that young pitcher. With all due respect to Brandon Young, like the Astros do have a great ability to get really aggressive sometimes with unheralded or younger pitchers, and in this game they were super aggressive. I don't have the stats in front of me. Maybe I'll pull this up really quickly. But the team sometimes, if there's not a lot of tape on a pitcher, I think sometimes they aren't. There's just something with the Astros, whether it's just now at this point a false narrative, or whether it's actually a way that they approach, whether it's something that the hitting coaches tell them to do with younger and unheralded pitchers. They got 0 walks in that game, but they got 7 strikeouts as a lineup. So that's not as bad as some of the other games in this series, for sure. We'll get to that. But they definitely there's just it. I don't know what it is exactly. If you're a statistician, if you're Billy Bean out there, the stats, come on the show. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment somewhere. I do say that I'm a comedian. I don't pretend to be a journalist. I don't pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I'm a clown. I make my jokes. I'm a super fan. I watch all of the games. I want to share my sports my sports fandom with you. I love the Astros. So I'm not trying to say that I know for sure that the hitting coaches need to be fired or something like that. I'm not one of those X-boys, one of the dudes on X's that, you're one of these opinionaires, as Denzel Washington so claims. Denzel, if you want to come on the podcast and talk to me about representing sports a little bit better, of course, I'll have you on the podcast, Denzel. I don't think I'm an opinionaire. I'm a comedian. I do say that. I think we're all... I don't hide. I don't try to act like I know something I don't. But I do think that this team really, this lineup struggled against Brandon Young, and they tend to struggle sometimes against these unheralded pitchers. Brandon Young, he could be him. I don't know. He looked like he was him on that game. It was a tough game to watch. He almost had that perfect game. Ramon Urias broke it up. At that point, sadly, what you're rooting for is for the team not to be embarrassed and not be no-hit. They still were shut out. They still lost the game. At the end of the day, that's just not ideal. So you move on to the second game, right? So we are going to move on to the second game, but honestly, I'm going to I need to take a second to calmate, to calm myself, actually. I'm telling you to calm down. Yeah, but calma, now I have to say it to the mirror. We're going to be right back, folks. We'll be a little bit more calm, talk about the rest of the series, and look ahead for what the Astros look like against Detroit on the road going forward, and talk about your Texans right after this.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, folks. I'm your host, as always, Paul Salazar Jr. Welcome back if you're listening to the podcast in the middle, like most people do it. That's why we say it in the middle, to make sure if you started in the middle, who we are. It's a long-standing tradition, and I'm not going to break it. Folks, I took a break. You can tell when I'm frustrated because I get a little sillier, I think. I ramble a lot more. But we're going to talk about the rest of this series. The second game of the series was a win. Thank the Lord. The second game of the series was a 5-4 win. This game, we got extra baseball. Joe Espada, Astros manager Joe Espada, emptied the bench. Everybody was playing. By the end of the game, De Los Santos, our new pitcher, was about to take a hit. He was in the on deck circle. Everybody was gonna have a chance to swing the bat. Everybody was gonna have a chance to pitch in that game. It seemed like the never-ending story. But Ramon Urias, once again, coming up big. This time he isn't just spoiling a perfect game. This time he actually gets a fielder's choice walk-off in the 12th inning. Also in this game, Serenity Now, George Costanza, all of a sudden, Jason Alexander is one of the best pitchers on this staff. Who would have known? He actually might be the anti-Costanza, because he started off struggling and now he's great. That's the anti-Costanza because that's the opposite of shrinkage. He's growing, so we got Costanza on the mound. He's pitching great. He's pitched 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 0 walks, and 6 strikeouts, and he did give up a home run. But, you got to be human, George. But Jason Alexander, obviously, all jokes aside, this guy has really started to solidify in this starting pitching role. Right now, especially we'll get to Christian Javier, we still need starting pitchers. We're looking for starting pitchers to return from injury. We're looking for some consistency. So it's good to see George Costanza, a.k.a. Jason Alexander, do so good in this game. The bullpen, was a little, definitely had a little ups and downs here. Lefty Brian King kind of locked in. That was good to see. However, Bennett Sousa blows a save in this game. However, the bullpen does hold it down generally for the rest of the game, obviously going 12 innings as a team. De Los Santos got the win in this game. He pitched 2 innings at the end of the game. Overall, it was a bit of a tough watch for the team as a lineup offensively. They were 3 for 15 with runners in scoring position. They left 13 men on base. Overall, they got 8 hits, picked up 9 walks, but had 16 strikeouts in this game as a team, so that aggression definitely was there. Jose Altuve got his 22nd home run in this game. We got the win here. We didn't get swept. I'm very grateful for that, but there were just some times that you were just you were really starting to sweat as an Astros fan. You're looking at this offense. It hasn't been great it wasn't great in July. Since the trade deadline, you're hoping for some more blood being pumped into the lineup. Correa has been great. Altuve has continued to be Altuve. Christian Walker started to improve. Yana Diaz has been improving a little, trying to be steady too. Jeremy Pena's back in the lineup, but somehow as a team, they still haven't started to gel together. They haven't had great situational hitting. It has been a struggle. This offense is kind of searching for itself right now. Do I hear Jordan's music? We'll get to that, folks. The third game of the series, sadly, we do have to talk about that today, right at just a bit ago, and this is why I'm in a foul mood. It was a 0-12 game out there, folks. It was a tough one. The Astros lose the series to the Orioles 1-2. This game was just bad. Another shutout in the series. Not fun. Looking at the lineup, looking at the offense, hoping they could figure out something, folks. It has not. It has been a struggle to watch this offense a bit at times. They're 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They left 6 men on base. Got 6 hits in this game. 1 walk. Worked only 1 walk in the game. 12 strikeouts. Another double-digit strikeout game. I don't know. I'm not trying to John Madden it here, but hey, guys, you might win the game if you don't strike out. So, maybe we limit the strikeouts. That would be good. I know there's been a lot of people out there. I joke about the anger, of course. I'm making my jokes, but there have been a lot of people out there like calling for the hitting coaches to be fired because of this stretch. I think the hitting coaches can't swing the bats for the players. It is a philosophy thing, but I do think when the team, it's human nature to press more during more stressful times. The Astros, in their golden era, they are great with 2 outs. When they take the pressure off of themselves. Right now, this team feels like a team that's putting the pressure on themselves. They need to figure out a way to relieve some of that pressure off themselves. I don't think part of the way to do that is to get your hitting coach fired and bring in some new people. I don't know. That's just me. I don't think you do that during this stretch of the season. I think they keep going and keep at it and figure out a way to just lessen these strikeouts. In this game, also, Christian Javier only goes 3 innings. That's a concern. Hopefully, Christian Javier is healthy. We do have some pitchers, working their rehab start. We have Yordan Alvarez about to go to his rehab starts. We are looking at some healthy players, some injured players coming back. However, Christian Javier was kind of looking good in his first start. You were hoping that maybe he was going to be able to come back and really compete in this starting rotation. But after this game, you're a little worried about him, that's for sure. We'll stay tuned to that developing story. Hopefully, it's just a little soreness, and they're just resting him and being super, super safe. In this game, after Christian Javier only was able to go 3 innings, of course, that's when the game started to spiral out of control. This bullpen is stretched thin, like butter on toast, as Bilbo Baggins would say. I think this was not a recipe for success for the Houston Astros. This was indeed the opposite, a recipe for disaster. After a long 12-inning game, an early start in this game, and your starting pitcher only goes 3 innings, this bullpen did not need this. It did not need this right now. So with the bullpen stretched thin, Sean Dubin came in. I get it totally. It looked like he had a new look rocking for him after a tough game in game 1 of this series. Sadly, he had another tough one. Caleb Ort and Jordan Weems also struggled today mightily, obviously, giving up 12 runs. A lot of people are going to have to struggle in that game. So it was a tough one for the bullpen. It was a tough one specifically for those players. The Astros start another series tomorrow. They are traveling to Detroit. They're going to have to play another game tomorrow. So yeah, you're looking at this bullpen and you're a little concerned. There might be perhaps a minor league move to bring in fresh arm. Maybe, sad to say, it might be a thing where they send Sean Dubin back down. Maybe bring in AJ Blueball or something like that, trying to get a fresh arm or something. We shall see. That's not me trying to pile on Sean Dubin, who has really struggled to find his way in the Astros bullpen. Coming back from injury, it just hasn't looked good since he's been back from the IL. Hopefully, he's able to make tweaks and figure out a way to start competing in ways that we have seen him compete in the past. But that it might be a necessity to bring in a fresh arm because of how taxed the bullpen is. There's no shade. We obviously always root for anybody with Houston on their chest here. So that's a shame to see. But officially now, after losing this series, folks, a lot of people are starting to panic. There's panic in Houston. There's panic at the Disco. The Seattle Mariners have been great. The Astros have been struggling right now. As of right now, this afternoon on Sunday, the Astros are 1 game ahead of Seattle with a 69-55 record. They are 5-5 in their last 10 on a 1-game losing streak, and the Seattle Mariners are 68-56. They're 1 game behind the Astros with 7-3 games in their last 10 on a 1-game losing streak as well. Folks, it is time to officially look in the rearview mirror. So that's right. If we're looking in the rearview mirror, it's time to break out the official Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros Panic Meter. Now, folks, just the fact that I am breaking it out here in August, that says something. And look, when I say we're breaking out the Panic Meter, that doesn't mean it's time to go into a full-blown panic. That just means we can rate where our emotions are at in terms of panic, okay? So don't panic about the Panic Meter. The Panic Meter is just here to help you in your time of emotional distress. It's not supposed to cause you emotional distress, okay? So when we're looking at the Panic Meter, folks, this Panic Meter is low. It looks like it's a 1% for me. It says, start trying to get mojo going. Oh, look, that's barely a panic, folks. So that's where I feel this team is right now. Right now, this team is not panicking. I don't think the fans should be panicking. I just think right now, whatever you're doing, try to get that mojo going again, Yeah, go treat yourself a bit. Go get yourself a new haircut, turn that swagger back on, bro. Like what you have some apologies to make? Have you been mean to people in your life? Go make those apologies. Get that swag back. Try to figure out what's been messing your mojo up and go change that, cuz that's all this team needs. This team just needs a little bit of paradigm shift. Maybe change your point of view a little bit. I don't think it's time to go full blown panic. I asked Carla earlier. I said, Carla, are you worried? She didn't even raise her head off the ground. She was just bummed about the game. It's okay to be bummed about the game, but I don't think we should be going to a full-blown panic right now. Carla doesn't either. Let's look at the games going ahead, folks. The Astros are playing Detroit on the road. The Motor City Kitties are real, folks. So obviously we know that AJ Hinch is going to come ready to win this series. The Astros are going to have to be able to fight tooth and nail to get this series. It is not going to be easy. Also, when you look at these pitchers in this matchup, folks, it is going to be a lot of good pitching in this matchup. The Houston Astros lineup has their work cut out for them. But so does Detroit. So let's look at this pitching matchup in Detroit. The first game is going to be Spencer Arrighetti, who's 1-3 with a 6.38 ERA with 16 strikeouts. He is still trying to get his young season started. He's going to be playing Joe Flaherty, who's 6-12 with a 4.76 ERA with 153 strikeouts on the season. You know, a vet against an up-and-coming pitcher. I really think that this is going to be a good matchup. Well, we'll have to see. You know, of the matchups, it is, this next one is definitely the, primetime matchup, if you will. It's going to be Hunter Brown in Game 2, who's 10-5 with a 2.45 ERA and 164 strikeouts on the year, against Tarek Skubal, who's 11-3. Yeah, with a 2.42 ERA and 190 strikeouts. I mean, these boys are going to be out there. They're going to be throwing gas. They're going to be striking folks out. That is going to be a low-scoring affair, I feel fairly confident to say. But, remember, I'm a comedian. Don't go out there and placing bets and then commenting that I said it was going to be a low. I'm a comedian. Remember, these are the jokes, folks. The Game 3 is going to be La Grasa. Framber Valdez is 11-6 with 3.01 ERA and 151 strikeouts against Ground Chuck Charlie Morton, who is back reunited with AJ Hinch, this time in Detroit. Charlie Morton, Uncle Charlie, is 8-10 with the 5.20 ERA and 122 strikeouts on the year. Lots of good pitching, I feel like. There has been some guys that have had a little bit of a tougher stretches this season. We do have Spencer Arrighetti, who is trying to fight his way back from injury, but I do feel like this is going to be some good pitching. I'm gonna really enjoy watching these series. The keys to winning this series, obviously, is going to be consistency. I'm a comedian. I'm more like John Madden than I am an actual sports, pundit or scout. That's what you're here for. You know what you're here for, right? So consistency is what we're looking for, not just from the podcast and the podcast host, I know, but from your Houston Astros, not just from the starters. We're going to need a consistent starters. We're going to need these starters to get some quality starts to take the pressure off of the bullpen, who has had a tough series. We're looking for that, but we also need consistency from the lineup. The lineup has been inconsistent. In big moments they have struggled. With runners in scoring position, they have struggled. We're going to need consistency from the lineup as well to be able to get these starting pitchers out of the game, to outlast them, to get them to have some longer counts, to battle them and fight for some hits, not just swing at things, that swing out of their shoes, and be super aggressive all the time. Patience for sure, but not just patience. I think you see highlights or lowlights on social media. You see a lot of people taking some big cuts, and you just assume that this team is always super aggressive. That's not the case. They are able to work counts. They are able to get walks, but the trend has not been that way. Right now, we are wanting for them to trend to have more patience, but at the same time, this team desperately needs slugging, so we're looking for Jordan to come back for sure, but we need this team to be able to take some big rips, to take some big cuts, and to swing for the fences at times. So this team is really going to have to figure out a way to have both the patience and the slugging at once, and they're going to need it in this series particularly. So we're going to be watching that, and also we're looking for bullpen flexibility and efficiency. If the offense is able to give some run support, if the starters are able to give some consistency and actually go deep into games, that will allow the bullpen to have some more flexibility, and manager Joe Espada to be able to deploy them more efficiently, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for some more flexibility and efficiency from this bullpen, but it's going to have to come for some run support to give the guys some confidence back in the back end of the bullpen and some consistency so that the bullpen isn't always called in the game super early. Those are the keys. We will be looking at that for the series in Detroit. And folks, before we wrap up, one more thing. We have some big news for your Houston Texans. That's right. Foosball is the devil, folks, and it is right around the corner. I hear the devil's music. I hear him right around the corner. Folks, the Houston Texans have traded wide receiver John Metchie III to the Philadelphia Eagles for tight end Harrison Bryant. I apologize. Tight end Harrison Bryant. They also swap picks there. The Houston Texans have a lot of wide receivers in their camp right now. Somebody was going to be cut, that's for sure. John Metchie deserves a chance. It's definitely he was such an inspirational story, having so many health battles, being able to fight cancer and come back and play football. He was just such a great and beloved Texan just for that. So it is sad to see him go, but it is kind of it's good to see him go to a team that wants him and needs him, and hopefully he'll be able to make a splash in Philadelphia and have a great career. We will miss him as a person and a player, but I do like the wide receivers that the Texans have, and perhaps with the tight end injury that happened in camp with Brevin Jordan, we're looking for some more tight end depth. So we'll see what Mr. Bryant has for us as a tight end. We will have to see. I'm assuming that Nick Caley feels good about this guy and what he has to bring to the offense. But folks, with that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast, the Paulcast, if you will. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it, smash all of those buttons for me. We are a small podcast and only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are supported by listeners like you. Dun, 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 dun. So please share with a Houston fan or Australian in your life and give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening to this podcast on. Really, those ratings do go a long way. If you've listened this far, I beg you, please don't make me beg. I beg you, please give us a 5-star rating. I beg you. Folks, thanks so much for your support. Please share with other Australians or Houston fans in your life. Check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you get the full blog experience. You just put your email into that field. Get a lot of stuff for free. I really don't put too much behind the paywall. I do have a premium subscription. That's just a way to support me, support the podcast, support Carla and her treat fund. If there are perks you would like the blog to have, just let me know. We'll build those perks together. I want to build a community of Houston fans. Let me know what you think. Please go check it out. That's a great way to support me. But if you want to support me and don't want to pay a blog subscription fee, I understand. Maybe check out this aircraft carrier hat, this Carla the dog hat, this Don't Sleep on Houston hat. I have merch, folks. That's right. You can find my merch at paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net. Go out there, check out the merch we have, check out those hats, support the podcast. Let me know what you think of those. Let me know what you think of the John Metchie trade, folks. Let me know if you think I'm right with the panic meter. You could tell me your opinions on social media at Space Cadet Sports, at spacecadetsports.bsky.social, or can call in and leave me a voicemail at SpeakPipe. That's speakpipe.com/SpaceCadetSports. If you've gotten this far and you're like, I need some more of this Paul guy in my life, well, folks, thank you so much for being a weirdo like me. You can find me making weird jokes on social media, jokes, memes, art, podcasts, and so much more at Paul Salazar Jr., paulsalazarjr.net. Don't forget that. You can find my other Substack and merch and other nonsense. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.